One Tuesday morning at around 11 a.m, I carried my 10-year-old self into the kitchen with one goal in mind: to go and eat Weet-Bix. As I passed the fridge, I saw a little yellow flyer stuck to the door. It said, "Kids Karate Classes." I laughed a little bit. I was like, oh, that's my brother. Poor him. I was very comfortable with my lazy life and I did not want to go and put myself in that kind of situation. So I grabbed my Weet-Bix, I poured the milk over it, and I went and I slumped down on the couch and I started eating. Then my mother walked in and she had the most terrifying look of excitement on her face. I took another mouthful of Weet-Bix. "We have booked you and your brother into karate class next week," she exclaimed. I spat out my Weet-Bix. "Absolutely not. I am not going." "Yes, you are. You cannot make me. Just give it a try. You might even enjoy it." "I will not. I will hate it. I will not even go. I'm not even going to try." I dropped my bowl of Weet-Bix, I ran to my room, I buried my head in the pillow and I screamed, "I am not going." But exactly 1 week later, I dressed myself up in a pair of denim shorts and a tropical t-shirt and I went to the dojo. The entire car ride, my mind had not changed. In fact, to this day, I am still pretty much as stubborn. But alas, I walked into the dojo with my little brother, who was actually pretty happy and proud to be there. Kyoshi, the main instructor, shouted at the room and immediately 50 or so kids ran across the room and got into this very oddly organized line. The senseis in the room grabbed my brother and I and pulled us to the far right of the line, which it took me a couple of weeks to learn, but that was where the lowest of the low ranks stand. Needless to say, I was incredibly humbled. But as the class began, I was humbled further still. I hated being so obnoxious and naive, and as I realized, I hated also being extremely unfit. However, despite my stubbornness and my convincingness that I would not enjoy a single second of the class, I found myself, minute after minute, enjoying every minute more than the last. And by the end of the class, I was beaming, sweating, everything about me hurting, but I was happy. I was proud of myself. And at the end of the lesson, the class lined up again. And I took a look to my left, and there were kids in white belts, then blue belts, and then green belts, and then brown belts, and then black belts. And I realized that the amount of effort that I put into that class was nothing. And I looked at the black belts down the end and I thought, if this was the strain that it takes to do one class, those people, those black belts, they are superhuman. And right then and there, in that moment, I became determined to become one. Oh, hi Max. Quick break from the story. This is my boyfriend's cat. His name's Max. He's really cute. I continued attending classes 3 times a week for pretty much the next 4 years. And in that time, I progressed not just of the belt ranks, but also of the teaching ranks. And I eventually became a Nidan Senpai, which is basically a senior student who is also a 2nd degree black belt. And at our dojo, this was basically the highest rank you could get without being an official instructor. But to be completely honest, throughout those 4 years, my belt color and my rank was the least important thing that developed, because out of all of those trainings, and every single time that I went to the dojo, I developed something far more significant, and that was my discipline. Because you see, I didn't just follow the sensei's instructions when they shouted 10-10, which basically meant you had to drop down on the floor, do 10 push-ups, do 10 sit-ups, or else. I ended up wanting to practice. I wanted to go home and do my 10 push-ups and 10 sit-ups every single morning. I wanted to practice my katas. I wanted to build my routines and my gradings. I wanted to be the best possible karate person. I don't know what that's called. I wanted to be the best that I possibly could. And if you were to go back in time to my 10-year-old self that used to wake up at 11 a.m. and eat Weet-Bix and could not be bothered to even lift a finger, she would be completely gobsmacked. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Successfully Balanced podcast. I'm your host, Aria Bradley. And if you're new to this podcast, welcome, hello, and I'm so grateful for you to be here. This is the podcast for the ambitious women who want to go above and beyond and achieve crazy, delusional, unrealistic goals and seriously just build their dream life, build everything they have ever wanted in their life, but in a way that is sustainable and doesn't require you to burn out. So if you're new, I hope you enjoy this podcast. If you do, please leave a rating on Spotify. It would mean the world to me, and it helps this podcast get reached to even more people, and we can help even more women and inspire so many people's lives. And if you're listening on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube rather, if you can like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed this episode, please let me know something that you took away. That would make my day so much. But when I was doing my Shodan grading, and gradings are like exams that you have for karate, right? I had done about 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups. I had done all of my katas, which are my routines, and I just had my sparring left. I'd already been sparring for about 45 minutes, and my final opponent was my father. I was dripping in sweat and pretty much on the verge of tears from how exhausted mentally and physically that I was. But I gave it my absolute all, and so did he, and he ended up completely accidentally punching me in the jaw. And that led all of the tears that were hiding away behind my eyes to come out. And I felt like fainting. I felt like throwing up. I felt like everything was just absolutely terrible. Every single inch of my body felt like I had been hit by a truck, and I was so exhausted. Every part of me was screaming to give up. But I had a goal, and this was hard. And by doing the hard thing, I was going to reach my goal. So I did not give up. And 15 minutes later, it was all over. I got down on one knee and I was presented with my Shodan belt. And in that moment right there, all of the pain was worth it. And it made me realize that there is a beauty in doing hard work. And there is the most beautiful things that happen on the other side of hard work. Now, no, by no means am I saying that you need to become a black belt and get punched in the jaw and do all this crazy stuff. That is not what I'm saying. What I am going to be sharing with you in this episode are the principles that I have learned over 4 years of karate and building businesses and doing all this stuff that people may say is unrealistic, especially at quite a young age. Because what a lot of it really boils down to, and I think something that a lot of us are sometimes afraid to admit, is that it takes hard work. It doesn't come automatically. You can't just wake up one day and expect things to all be there for you. You have to work hard. It's not escapable. Now, when I say the word addiction, I really want you to take that with a grain of salt, and please understand that there is a lot of nuance to that word. I don't mean addiction in the sense where you physically cannot draw yourself away from something and you are physically obsessed. That is not what I mean. I mean the kind where you want to do hard work, you are drawn to it, and you feel a desire and a craving to do the hard work. That is different from an addiction. That's not what we want to do. That's not what I'm saying here. Please read between the lines and don't. But what I am saying is that the principles that I'm going to share in this video, there are 2 core ones here that I want you to understand. I believe these are going to be applied to any field and anyone can see results in them. Because these lessons have contributed to some of the things in my life that I am most proud of, including going to the gym and doing a workout roughly 300 days a year, posting almost every single day for the past year and a half, launching 2 businesses, including Elevate, which by the way, if you've gotten to this point of the episode, check it out. It's in the link in the description. It is the program to be. If you want to develop your discipline, you want to build yourself into the woman that holds exactly what you want and builds the life of your dreams. It helped me to become an award-winning founder within literally months of launching my business, and also pretty much everything else that I've ever achieved. So even me putting this video up here, it's a hard thing to do. I don't really want to be sitting on my boyfriend's living room floor on a Saturday afternoon, but here I am because I love the hard work. Well, actually I do want to be here. It's just not necessarily what other people may consider a fun thing to do with your Saturday. So without further ado, let's get started. Number 1, you need to suffer first, and you need to see the gains of your suffering to be able to see the potential that there is from hard work. Now, please calm down and please take this again, understand the nuance. I do not believe in self-destruction to achieve a twisted sense of satisfaction. That is not what I'm trying to say here. I mean it more in the sense that it's kind of likened to that of building a muscle. You don't like doing the workout. It's hard, it hurts. But eventually you kind of see the six-pack forming, you see the biceps forming, and you're like, damn, that was worth it. The difficult times were worth it. I don't mean working out to the point of literal failure and fainting and exhaustion. I just mean putting in hard work and seeing results from that. Because until you can actually see the effect of hard work, you won't really understand the capacity of it and the potential that it can have. And so when you do something and you see the result of that, whether that is like a 30-day ab challenge, whether that is doing a big hike, especially something physical, it's easier to tell the results of that. That is when you learn that the persistence is so worth it. Once you start to see a payoff, you begin to want more of it. And when that happens, you become unstoppable. Again, please, there's a lot of nuance to this. A lot of people, including myself, have taken this to the extremes, and I do not at all encourage that. A healthy dose of common sense and good mental well-being are extremely necessary to proceed both safely and sustainably and keep you happy, which is what this podcast is about. Imagine you are hiking up a hill. It sucks. You have a heavy backpack, the weather is kind of bad, and you forgot to bring snacks, and I don't know, it just sucks. And every single step that you take, you're like, should I even keep going? Like, it's still so far to go and I can't be bothered, and it just sucks. But you keep going. And you keep persevering, and you get to the top, and the view that you see is the most beautiful view you have seen in your entire life. In that moment right there, you understand why people hike. You understand why people put themselves through that difficult period to be able to see the view on the other side. And it's the same thing in business. It's the same thing in content. If you want to get the followers, you have to post, and posting is uncomfortable, but you get the reward. In business, you have to send the messages, you have to send the cold DMs, the cold emails to get the leads, to build the financial freedom that you want. That is when you realize the power of hard work. And then all of a sudden, it's really funny because then you want to apply this newfound power to everything. You start to push harder at the gym, you start to do the more difficult math equation, you offer to speak on stages, and this is how legends are made. One of my girls in Elevate has genuinely reached legend status. I literally got a message from her yesterday saying that the Daily Mail has asked to interview her, to feature her story and her work. Like, is that not just incredible? And do you really think that that would have happened if she hadn't put in the hard work and she hadn't persevered and she hadn't kept doing the difficult thing even when it was hard and even when she doubted herself? No, of course not. The only reason she is where she is and people are going to celebrate her and see her as a success story is because she worked hard and she persevered. And now as a result, she is seeing the fruits of her labor. Progress is made through practice, and practice is only effective when it pushes you. And you cannot push yourself without being uncomfortable. This is my boyfriend's other cat, Louis. He's almost as cute. I'm kidding, I don't have favorites, but Max is like smaller, so he's kind of more kitten sized, and I don't know, that's kind of cuter. Anyways, as I was saying, discomfort is the key to success. Now I want to do a quick little note here on the soft life, because I know there is a bit of debate, especially amongst women, being like, I want a soft life, I want to enjoy the little slow luxuries of life, and I agree, and I believe that you are so entitled to that. And I myself, I love a little softness in my life. I love waking up slowly, I love going for a walk instead of a run, I love eating Weet-Bix over a salad. I do not encourage you to remove all sources of joy and comfort and softness out of your life for the sake of progress. I believe in balance, hence this podcast, Successfully Balanced. I believe in waking up at 5 a.m. every morning except for Fridays. I believe in walking most days and maybe running twice a week. I believe in eating a healthy breakfast pretty much every single day, but if I'm craving pancakes, I will make them. None of this is wrong so long as it is in moderation. Too much softness and you can become complacent and restless and likely dependent. And also you just don't have your fair share of accomplishments to feel proud of yourself for. But too little softness and you can become cold and obsessive and sucked of joy. As women especially, I believe that we can and should have both. Now to part 2 of this episode. Dopamine will make or break your addiction. C8H11NO2 has a bit of a bad rap. It leads us to drink too much, to scroll too much, to party too much. We really want to minimize this type. However, it is also a primary driver for effort. The brain releases dopamine both when you achieve something and you actually physically get the reward, but also in the anticipation for it. This is the type that we want to maximize. But to minimize the destructive kind of dopamine, we first need to understand it. You see, dopamine is released by stimulation, and naturally this would be things like watching a beautiful sunset or reading a book or eating some really nice food. However, our modern society isn't quite that simple. We have social media, we have ultra-processed foods, and we have a plethora of other artificial stimuli. These artificial stimuli raise our dopamine so much redonkulously higher than they would otherwise be. Meaning that when we then go to do something less stimulating like reading a book or going to the gym or pretty much anything that is difficult that we often put off and don't want to do, it feels painfully boring in comparison. So the fix seems pretty simple, just cut out artificial dopamine. Yet no, our modern society isn't actually wired that way. It's a bit more complicated than that. So what I would instead encourage is something called dopamine loading. So essentially the way you do this is at the start of the day, you minimize how much dopamine you get. So you don't scroll on your phone first thing in the morning, you don't eat a really sugary cereal, you don't go and binge a Netflix show at 6 a.m. Don't do that unless you're like really sick and recovering, but just otherwise don't do that, because then what you do is throughout the day you gradually increase your dopamine. So if you're going to do the things like eating that bag of lollies or watching that Netflix show, do it in the evening, because that is once you've done all your work and all of the less stimulating, more physically and emotionally demanding things are out the way, and then you can relax. Because when you minimize your dopamine at the start of the day, you make more room for the less stimulating things like doing the hard work, doing the reading, doing the posting content, all the things that we try to assign ourselves doing, but we just don't like doing them because they're hard and because they are boring and they are less stimulating. But if you can reduce the height of stimulus, especially at the start of the day, you reduce that gap and you don't crave doing those things so much. You actually end up craving the hard things because they are a lot more stimulating than sitting and doing nothing. There is genuinely so much I want to unpack on this topic that I literally spent the other week 3 hours sitting down recording some masterclasses for my girls in Elevate. So if you feel like your discipline is the thing that is holding you back from building the life that you really want and 10xing your business, your income, your fitness results, anything that you want in life, you want to take it above and beyond. I want you to check out the link in the description. If you do anything from this episode, check out that link and just see if it is potentially the right fit for you, because I am so ridiculously proud of all the girls in there. And if you want to level up your life and you want to achieve the wins that they have had, like starting their own UGC business, going and building a business that they can work on from anywhere in the world, growing to 10,000 followers, building a Harvard mentorship program, if you want to be doing those things, check it out, get in there, and I will be in there every single day, making sure that you're on the right track, holding you accountable, and being there to support you every step of the way. Currently, we only have tier 1 launched, but honestly, if you're building a discipline, that is the place to be, and you will also get automatically upgraded into tier 2 and in tier 3 when they launch. And you also save like $5,000 doing that, so definitely now is the time to get in. But in short, regarding dopamine, especially in the morning, you want to minimize artificial stimuli. And as soon as you do that, you will get to have the joy of watching how much easier it becomes to do these subtly difficult things on a day-to-day basis. Because the moment that you combine dopamine regulation and seeing the results of your hard work, you become unstoppable, and it becomes kind of addiction-like. Now, I have seen the effect that this has had on my own life, and I really want it to have the same effect on your life. So if you do nothing else from this episode, take what I say and actually apply it. You are not going to get anything out of continuously watching YouTube videos and just like listening to them and trying to assimilate knowledge and gain and just keep hoarding knowledge. You won't change your life that way. If you actually want to change your life, you need to apply what I say. And to help you do that, I've attached a workbook. It is completely free. It is in the description, and it helps you to master your discipline and get addicted to doing the hard things. If you download it, I would strongly recommend that you print it out. It's just a bit easier to write on and you can see it physically. But if you don't print it out, there are a couple of things that I want you to do regardless. Number 1, when you go to bed tonight, put your phone on the other side of the room, and when you wake up tomorrow morning, do not go and grab it and scroll. You are going to either read, you're going to go outside on a walk, you're going to do some yoga in your bedroom floor, and you're just going to have a slow morning that does not require TikTok or Instagram or anything like that. You're also going to do something difficult. You are going to physically push yourself. You're going to go for a 5K run, a hike, do 100 push-ups like I had to for my karate grading. Do something that physically challenges you so that you can feel how good it feels to not only see the results of your hard work, but to feel how good it feels to be proud of yourself for doing something difficult. And once you have that momentum, it is onwards and upwards. I really hope that you guys have enjoyed today's episode. If you did, it would mean the world to me if you could give this podcast a rating, especially if you rate it at 5 stars. That'd be the best thing ever. If you rate it on Spotify, and if you're listening on YouTube, then if you give this episode a like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments something that you took away from this episode and something that you are going to do as of literally right now to build your discipline. I feel like you can probably hear the dogs playing in the background, so I should probably go to see them. I will see you in next week's episode. Bye for now.